Hello and welcome to Bird Barrier. We're here at ProLab Studios. My name is Michael Gallion. I do business development, and we have our senior technical advisor, Tony Giton. And today, Tony doesn't even know why we're here.
No.
This particular subject, I am so confident in Tony's abilities that I didn't even tell him what we're going to talk about today in advance. So that's how much confidence I have in you.
Thank you. Thanks, Michael.
But this one will come easily because from all the years of you working at our, how many years has it been now?
I think it's going on 18.
18 years of birdcraft.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I could say something to that, but I won't.
I have in my photo log something, someday we're going to do an episode, and it's the Hall of Shame of bird control.
Yeah, right.
Like the example on an earlier podcast was bird spikes on the top of the owl's head.
Yes.
That deserves to be in the Hall of Shame.
Right.
So speaking of the Hall of Shame, today we're going to talk about mistakes in bird control.
Yeah.
And, you know, let's just go. What I'm going to do is I've served it up. You're going to go first. I'm going to go, and we're going to go back and forth till we run out of stupidity in bird control.
Right, right. Okay.
Well, I shouldn't say stupidity. Okay, so I retract that.
No, so some things are in people's minds. They're logical.
Stupid is as stupid does.
No, it's logical. It seems in your head that would work.
Yeah.
But why doesn't it work? Well, I thought that the first time I saw pigeons that made a nest in spikes.
Yeah.
I thought, how'd they do that?
Yeah.
How would they really do that? And this is before I started bird control, and I was like, I was just amazed that they did that. Because logically speaking, you would look at that and you would think, oh, there's no way that's going to fix anything.
Okay. Well, all right. Well, then let's kick it off with that. I love starting with that. So, as a mistake, then what is the mistake in that? What did it turn out to be the mistake?
Well, logically thinking, you know, you would think, well, how would the bird be able to manipulate these spikes and get in there? But what you don't know, and what we teach here at Bird Barrier, is bird behavior and why they act that way in that certain area.
And they're very predictable in their behavior. Pigeons are all related all over North America. They're non-native. So pigeons, that's the really cool thing about pigeons versus, like these guys in pest control talk about all these variations of roaches and they do different things. Well, guess what? Pigeons, they just always do the same stupid things.
There's a small percentage, like you could do a great net job on a project, and you'll get rid of maybe 30, 40 birds, right? But there's always that small percentage. There's always that 1, 2, 3 birds that say, I'm sticking around. They're going to find a bolt, a nugget, a 1-inch square, a 2-inch square, something that they can hang on to, and they're going to stay there just because. I've seen just to spite you.
Right.
And I've seen pigeons sit on flex track before and take that shock just because it's that 1 or 2% of birds that will always do the unthinkable.
You know, and if we take a little sampling of their DNA of those particular birds, guess what they would be if they were humans? They would be closers in sales.
That's right.
Because they're so damn determined to win everything, right?
I like that.
But getting back to the idea of mistakes, right? We're talking about mistakes. Yeah. So your first one was, you know, how do birds? Well, and I'll go ahead and say this, you know, for the record, because people hear when I kick off the introduction to bird control, it's the first thing I say: using spikes where birds are already nesting.
Right.
Most common mistakes. So we gotten that one out of the way.
Yeah, I'd say that's pretty common.
All right. Let's go to number 2.
Well, maybe using the wrong product for the wrong species.
Wrong product for the wrong species.
Right.
So in other words, a product might be very effective for pigeons, but won't be effective for, let's say, turkey vultures.
That's correct.
Okay.
Or gulls.
All right.
You know?
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm going to go to number 3. I'm going to say using a deterrent in the wrong way. And about my favorite example is decoys or like plastic owls.
Yeah.
Plastic owls. Okay, let me say this for the record, once and for all.
Yeah.
It's not a mistake to use a plastic owl necessarily in bird control. It's not a mistake. There is a use. We sell them. They sell. They are a common part of bird control. But an owl or any other decoy, except for the goose effigy, right?
Right.
The dead ones.
Dead geese effigy.
Sometimes you hang an effigy of a dead crow, right?
Some people have.
That's different. So what we're talking about is an active decoy, meaning that it's supposed to be alive. It has to move. Now, we have the rotating head.
Right.
You know, there's some, okay, those are a little bit step in the right
They have
direction.
audio.
They have audio included.
Yeah.
But a plastic owl, for the record,
Yeah.
creates a response in the bird.
Yes.
That is what we want. The
Yes.
mistake is to not move its location around on a regular basis,
On a daily basis.
on a daily basis.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
then you say, well, wait a minute. You're telling me that the plastic owl has to keep being repositioned? Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
then it's not a very effective tool. So that in and of itself is another mistake. Number 4 is even using a decoy that's going to cost you tons of labor to maintain.
Well, let's talk about this for a second. There's a bunch of other stuff involved with the owl, right? So
Okay.
typically, mom and pop they just built a balcony
Yep.
on the second floor, and they want to do preventative maintenance. That's where an owl would come in. Owl would be great as a preventive. You don't have a bird problem there yet, so you don't have a bird that's committed to that spot.
Right, okay.
You don't have a bird that's used to coming there, even if it's low to medium pressure. You don't have that yet. So you put this owl out, you move it around all the time, move it in different spots.
You still move it around.
You're going to have more success that
Right.
way with the bird, with the new guy that's coming over for the first time, because he's going to notice that. If you have an upstairs balcony and you have an existing bird problem, you put that owl out there and expect these birds to go away, you're going to get what you like to say, your initial response.
Yep.
Right? Where they're going to
Triggering
probably
response.
triggering response. They're
Yep.
going to leave for a few days, but they will come back if you don't move that owl. Now, in those situations, I would always double up. I would throw in an audio deterrent. I would do whatever I can to make that place less desirable and then still be able to check off the aesthetics box by not making my house look like the circuses in town by hanging stuff,
Okay,
from everywhere.
now you've opened the door for another one. I'm going to say
Yeah.
this is number 5.
Yeah.
Tell me about mistake with audio deterrent.
Oh, well, there's all different types of audio deterrents, like we spoke about.
Well, what's the most common mistake with audio deterrent, though? Just keep it simple.
That it's a solution for heavy pressure.
Okay, so using, number 5, using a medium deterrent like audio for
Yeah.
high pressure nesting.
Yeah.
A mistake. And now I'm going to say, number 6, using an audio deterrent by itself.
Oh, good
You know,
point.
just using it by itself as
Yeah.
as if it is going to be the cure to the problem.
Yeah.
Now, look, they're preventative. Let's
Yeah.
go back to preventative.
Yeah,
The
preventive
balcony
maintenance. Yeah.
got put in,
Yeah.
so they put an audio deterrent as the method. Maybe they like the sound, natural sound of birds. Some of
Yeah.
them are pleasant to have, and that wouldn't be too far of a reach to think about that.
Yeah.
But using it on occasion, in other words, moving the pattern, kind of like the owl.
Yeah.
Even in that situation, you want to mix it up. This is why the sound deterrents have multiple modes, programmable modes,
Ours.
right? So you have these different modes, but you want to use it on and off. It's got to seem like nature for
Yeah.
it to have any effect. But so that's common. What else? What
Yeah.
else you have? What's another common mistake in bird control?
I think one of the common mistakes that guys make, if you're talking about a professional guy and he's new, is not communicating with their end user on the expectations that they will see.
Setting expectations. That's
Right.
a great one.
And I'll give you an example. If your customer has a structure, and let's say they have an awning that's 20 by 30, and there's 4 cars that park underneath there every day, and you've got pigeons up in the structural support beams up there, and every day when they leave, they have a mess on their windshield, right? So So this guy says, yeah, fix this. Okay, so we decide to net it, right? So we net it, everything's great. The guy comes out, he looks, but what the guy didn't say is that this will stop birds from being here, but it doesn't mean the birds are going anywhere.
Right.
They're not leaving.
Yeah.
They're going to sit on the top of that awning now on the perimeter.
Okay.
And if you don't fix that, because that's the next closest place to their favorite spot, they're going to sit up on top there, or they're going to go on the main structure or stay in the park. They will be there. So you have to communicate these things to your end user.
Yeah.
So one of the mistakes that people make in the beginning is not communicating exactly what's going to happen. I think in a situation like that, maybe the guy is a little gun shy. We do this area, we call it phase 1, and now we take a 2-week wait and see. We see where the birds go. If they go to his main structure, we'll call that phase 2.
Right.
If they leave, great. But if they don't, and we think they won't,
So
yeah.
number 8 was not setting proper expectations for what the outcome is. So
Yes.
preparing, you got to prepare them for that. Okay, let's move on to kind of bigger scale bird control now. Like
Yeah.
at the top end, we see bigger jobs. There's a lot more at stake.
Yeah.
And we see mistakes that are made. One thing I'm going to go with for, especially on larger jobs,
Yeah.
here's a common mistake in bird control. Not understanding that labor efficiency is far more important than trying to get the cheapest, lowest cost materials.
Right.
Oh my gosh, you'll see
Right.
a guy try to whittle down to the cheapest material, and it's going to cause him to do a ton more labor, costing the job even more. Your
Right.
whole key to profitability and low cost is not using cheap materials. It's not. I'm sorry. I'm not just sitting here trying to sell deterrents at the highest price. Believe me, my heart is in it for you. For
Yes.
you that want to do the installs, you got to control your labor and understand. Now, a simple tool, I'm going to give an example of this, okay? Bird spikes versus bird coil.
Yeah.
When I first got to bird barrier and looked at the products, I'm like, what the hell you need this bird coil for? You got bird spikes and bird coil. Why all these different things? Well, without it really being fully described, eventually I've come to learn what the real secret of bird coil is and where it's had its biggest impact. Is that if you've got 2,000 linear feet and you're going to do spikes, the customer is good with spikes, medium pressure, not dealing with nesting.
Yeah.
We're trying to do a nice job, get that done. You do 2,000 linear feet of spike, it's going to cost X. You do that same linear feet in coil, it's going to cost Y. And Y is going to be less overall than the spikes. So right there, there's a cost savings. But more importantly is that 2,000 linear feet of coil, if done properly, is going to go in a lot faster than the spike in many cases. Now, I didn't really know this until I started going out in the field and seeing it and comparing notes and talking to installers. Now, do you agree with what I just said?
It also, but, what's so interesting about our industry is there's always little caveats to everything.
Yeah.
There's so many different little. So I was just listening to you what you were saying, and I would totally agree, and that would depend on the substrate you're attaching to.
There you go.
Now you have here at the Pro Lab here at Bird Barrier Corporate, you have coil out on display, and you have it on ferrous metal. So you're using magnets to hold it in. Now,
Just because it's a prop, yeah. But yeah.
just as a prop.
That wouldn't be done really in the practical world that way necessarily. Yeah.
Well, I think it could be done, and there would be a
Did I
great
invent
use
a great
for that.
idea?
You want to know what the great use is? Let's say window washers. This is on the
Yeah,
perimeter
you're
of
right,
it,
yeah.
and window washers put their straps or their ladder hinges over the side there. Well, guess what? We can protect that, and we can also move that.
So think
when
of
they
that.
come in.
So there you go. I innovated without even trying
You did.
of a possible solution.
You
but,
did.
But the point of the mistake, and there's a good mistake.
Yeah.
Oh, that's number 9. You just
Yeah.
thought of number 9, which is not considering other things after the bird deterrents are installed is that deterrent going to interfere
Right.
with something? And you bring
That's
up a good
right.
point. Not thinking about the long-term strategy. Like, I've talked to a big corporate account that has locations all over the place. They love the idea of using netting in their garden centers, except
Yes.
for one problem. That here's something that P&P wouldn't know, but they told me is that the forklift operators that work in those garden centers
Yeah.
have a reckless disregard no matter what they tell them for
Right.
that netting.
Right.
They will drive the forks and lift right up and tear the crap out of this expensive net.
Right.
There will be a zipper right under the light bulb for them to change. What do? They'll take scissors and cut a gap. They don't even know that was a zipper up there. And they cut a big gap, they change out the bulb, they leave a big gaping hole, and now the whole expensive net is...
Can I make a comment real quick?
Yep.
So to speak to what you're talking about, this
Yep.
is a really good point that gets overlooked. When you're writing up your contract with your end user, you installers out there that I'm talking to,
Yep.
it's a really good idea whenever you're installing netting to always put in there, say, if anybody needs to get beyond this net or through this net, or the net needs to be maneuvered in any way, it goes through me, the installer. You put that in writing, that way if you do need to take the net down, you can do it, and there's recurring revenue for you, but
good point.
you also
Great.
know how to handle it.
Great point. Okay, I have one last thought on this, and Tony, if you've got another one to follow, please.
Yeah.
But one last thought, and this is kind of really high-level thinking. This is a high-level strategy, especially for owners of national pest control companies, sales managers. We're talking high-end with the biggest accounts and the type of industries that they serve. The common mistake that I see is not understanding the basic economics of particular industries. I'm going to give an example. Car washes produce all kinds of bird problems. They're not really good customers to go after. You know why? They barely have a margin on car wash profits as it is. The cost to operate a car wash is so thin on margins, so dependent on weather and other factors, that if you're going to go and try to get them to spend any money whatsoever, you're going to find that a total waste of time. So you've got to look at each industry and say, okay, you've got to look at what's the underlying industry. Is that industry booming? Is it doing really well? Like food production is an absolute necessity. The electrical industry is an absolute necessity. With those, they're gold mines because they cannot afford to have any problems. A car wash will work around that problem.
Right.
Not really understanding the business that you're serving is a big mistake, and then not thinking in terms of how much money are they going to have to allocate and fleshing that out.
Right.
And then, but I'm not saying to abandon the car wash like altogether. Like, one cool thing that happened locally here is when we got the Canadian version of optical gel prepped and tested, we went to a local car wash because they didn't have money to spend. But they offered to allow us to do a free test of Optica,
Right.
the Canadian version that didn't have the oils added. And we did a test in the worst area. Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
Tony, we got photos of this.
Right.
Infestation was deep.
Did you clean first?
Yeah, we did. What we did is we did several, it was able to be broken into 3 different tests where we used dissolvent, we didn't use dissolvent. We used regular optical gel, we used Optica, we used different cleaning solutions, and we recorded all the data. It was great. So that company that owned the car wash, right, they had no money, but they were able to allow us to do a test. That is the only time I've really gotten involved with a car wash where, of course, it proved profitable for us to do that as a business.
Right.
But the point is that industry they don't have that kind of money. Any other mistakes?
Well, yeah, getting back to what we were talking about originally, in this industry, in our industry, unfortunately, you get what you pay for. And what I mean by that is there's really no shortcuts. It's to your advantage to get quality products, to use that so you don't get the dreaded callback. And it's really in your best interest to get as much training as you can. If you do have questions, please call us. We're here to help and assist, not only with your product selection, not only with your installation strategy, but also your sales strategies. Because you might be sitting in a multiple structure area that you could do this in phases.
Yep.
And you don't have to get all confused and how am I going to do all of this at once? No. We'll just simplify it and break it down, and we'll do it in phases.
So we'll end it with that
Yeah.
mistake, the mistake of not getting properly trained. And every month at Bird Barrier, we do modern bird control training, the full certification. Here's a mistake. If you're even involved in bird control, you're saying, man, I don't have time to do the full class. At the very least, not signing up for the class and then doing module 1 and 2, which is Intro to Bird Control, and then the optical gel training. With those two things, we have seen people who were absolutely flatline $0 go to nearly $1 million in sales of bird control just with those two training tools.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's a mistake, not getting the basic training. And you can, those are even recorded modules. So it's foolish to even be here on this podcast listening means that you need to at least have that as the bare minimum.
If you're educated and you're an experienced installer, there's a huge market for you out there. There is so much business for you. There is not enough installers in the country right now. It's a huge market.
So is it a mistake to put bird spikes on top of an owl's head?
It depends on what time of year it is. If it's Halloween, go for it.
If it's Halloween, it's a punk rock owl.
Right.
You got a good reason.
We can put lights up there and everything. It would be great.
Okay, that's it for now. We will see you all at the next podcast.